This is
Lake Hazen weather station.
Lake Hazen, I can't tell you how happy I am to hear your voice. For some reason, you're the only person who wants to talk to me. We've lost contact with NASA and everyone else. Do you have information on our transmission blackout? Lake Hazen, are you there?
how much have you picked up about the conditions on Earth?
We've received nothing.
I wish I...
I'm sorry, Lake Hazen. I missed that last transmission.
That is a clip from The Midnight Sky. I'm delighted to say we've been joined by one of its stars, who's Felicity Jones, who's on the other end of this Zoom call. Hello, Felicity. How are you?
Hello, Simon. I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
All right. Yeah. Where do we find you?
I'm at home in London. Been hibernating for many months now. So just experiencing this new way of doing press.
The last time we spoke, it was for The Aeronauts, a film that was so utterly exhausting for you. I think you got quite seriously injured. This is so anyway. So you're completely recovered from that anyway, I take it.
Just about, yeah. I have a lingering sort of hum of an injury that I try to forget about, but is a little reminder of the joys of shooting The Aeronauts.
What does a lingering hum mean?
Lingering hum, I just have a slightly sore right rib. When I sort of do certain movements, then I get a little bit of a twinge. And I actually remember reading an interview with Jane Fonda, who said that from shooting, from years and years of making films, that she had injuries all over her body. So I've got to be careful, I think, moving forward, not to get too involved in my stunts.
It's like having a tattoo for every movie that you've done. Here's my Rogue One injury, and over here's my aeronautical injury. Did you get any damage at all in The Midnight Sky?
Midnight Sky, no, The Midnight Sky was a dream. It was very comfy because I was pregnant in the film. I did most of my stunts. I can't really call them stunts, actually. I mean, I was sitting down on a very comfy stool, pretending to look like I was in space. So it was a luxurious experience comparatively.
So in comparison with the Aeronauts, then this is like sitting down on a sofa with a glass of wine in comparison.
Exactly. It was an absolute dream. Yeah, very straightforward. I was actually rather fortunate watching other people work really hard as I just kicked back and enjoyed the ride.
So let's tell a little bit of the story. I think the year is 2049. Some bad things have been going on Earth. Just tell us either all of the story or your part of the story and where this movie takes us, Felicity.
So in The Midnight Sky, we join the film. It is post-apocalypse. The world has come to an end. And I play one of a team of astronauts who have ventured away from Earth to find the possibility of life on a planet in outer space. So they've been on a research trip. And as they've been away on this trip, they have discovered that something has happened on Earth. They're not sure what has happened, but they have lost contact. So they are orbiting in absolute silence. They keep trying to make contact and they can't receive any communications. So we join them at that point, wondering what the hell has happened. And the film unfolds and it pivots between our story on the spaceship and then back to Earth with George Clooney, who is the last man on Earth. And it is about the ensuing connection that eventually happens between the ship and George Clooney's character left in an Arctic space station.
Inevitably, we're watching this thinking, what has happened? It's a bit like watching The Walking Dead. You're thinking, what has started the zombie apocalypse? Or The Road, what is it that set the world on this disastrous direction? What do we learn about what's happened to the Earth?
Well, we know that there's been some sort of irreversible event. We presume that it's some kind of nuclear explosion. There's an image that the crew see later on of Earth and it's covered in black smoke. So they know that the likelihood of being ever able to return to Earth is very, very slim. So it's about this crew coming to terms with the possibility that they may be in a situation where it is the end of the world.
And based, I haven't read the book, on Good Morning Midnight by Lily Brooks Dalton. Did you get to read that before you started, or was it just the screenplay that was that did it for you, Felicity?
No, the book was absolutely vital in getting further and deeper into the characters, in understanding, what the hell is going on in their minds during this time. They obviously have a lot of time for reflection. I mean, not too dissimilar to what we're going through now. They're asking questions of themselves. Some of the crew are thinking, looking to the past and thinking about what they've left behind. In the case of my character and David Oyelowo's character, we are in a relationship. So we are looking to the future and hoping for survival and ways of surviving. But the book was absolutely brilliant in just helping me go deeper into understanding the character Sully that I was playing. And it's a beautifully written book, very moving like the screenplay, and yeah, just was essential in understanding the character's motivations.
I should say David Oyelowo is on the show next week. So I mean, he's such a great actor. We've spoken to him a number of times. What's it like working opposite David Oyelowo?
Oh, it's heaven. It's absolute heaven. He is completely in the moment. You can throw things at each other. There's no ego. He similarly has done a lot of theatre. He's just a lovely sparring partner. There's not no competition. He is always incredibly well prepared, but he's able to throw all the ideas you might have at home out the window and see what happens on the day.
We should play that clip to him. We'll play that to him and then see what he says.
Oh, good, do, because we've been doing a lot of press together, so he's probably sick of the sight of me. So that'd be nice to say in his good books.
As you said, there's two bits to the film. There's the space side of the story, and then there's the Earth side of the story, led by George Clooney.
Yeah, it definitely raises the stakes being in a film with George Clooney. What I love watching about George's performances is just how effortless they are. And actually, interestingly, he makes them look effortless, but they come with a lot of preparation. But what's brilliant is he never brings that to the screen. So you never see all the hard work that's gone into it. And he's very musical in the way that he delivers his lines. He's very obsessive about the rhythm, the way you say something. He always gives something. He has a wonderful combination of managing to get the seriousness of what he's saying, but he always gives it a comic twist. There's a lightness to the way he performs. And because of the nature of our relationship in the film, I definitely tried to copy that in some respects, or not copy it, but sort of channel a little bit of George Clooney in how I was playing Sully.
Yeah, I should say, because he's the director. What kind of a director is he?
He's very, very good at making people feel very relaxed. Because at first you're a little bit nervous. You're like, oh, it's George Clooney. He's pretty cool, but he comes with no pretensions. He is very focused on what he's doing. He knows the story intimately. He knows exactly where he wants the camera to be in every scene. It moves very swiftly, but within that, he just likes everyone to feel that they can be themselves. He doesn't like anything to be overperformed or overworked. So it was usually a couple of takes and then he's got what he wants and he moves on. I mean, we would finish sometimes at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So it was very nice.
That's very, 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 very sociable. He said in one of the interviews that he's done, Felicity, to talk about this movie, he said, as time goes on, it's boring to be just an actor. So he's talking, because he's got his own family and he's directed this movie and it's great to see him back on the screen. But I wonder, do you ever feel like that? Do you ever feel pulled into thinking maybe you'll get involved in directing?
Well, I think as an actor, you're very much a cog in a giant wheel. And I can see that it can become frustrating sometimes that you have so little say in the overall vision. Definitely I can understand that. You start to feel that you've had a lot of experience of being on sets. Actors can sometimes be on hundreds and hundreds of sets and sometimes more than directors. And so I think gradually over time accruing that amount of experience, you definitely start to think, well, I wonder what I would do in this situation and where would I put the camera? And without a doubt, it definitely becomes more intoxicating that idea. But I think in the end, I think sometimes it is a bit of a frustration when you watch something finished and you think, oh, that's not exactly how I saw it. And your powerlessness is what starts to drive you crazy, which I think is probably what George has felt and has turned to directing.
Can I ask you about one other role in On the Basis of Sex? You played Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and I just wondered, after the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, how that affected you, having got to know her and worked alongside her.
Well, when I think I read about her death on my phone, and it was an enormous shock, which was perhaps a strange response to someone who we knew was very elderly, had cancer. It was definitely, she knew that she didn't have a long time left, but still there was so much hope pinned on her that I think hearing that she had died was really deep, was upsetting, and you kind of felt like she would go on forever, or you hoped she would go on forever. And I think particularly with the political situation as it was then, it was really frightening, her death, I think. But she definitely was a symbol of change. And I mean, that's obviously on a macro level, but in terms of my personal relationship with her, I felt very close to her. I felt that she had struggled enormously through her life and had the sheer tenacity and guts to keep going and do it in such a way that was so eloquent and dignified, when I imagine there must have been moments when she just wanted to scream at people for their ignorance and sheer prejudice and sexism. But the way she coursed her life and chose the long path is truly admirable.
There can't be many parts, I guess, that you take in your career which you would describe genuinely as life-changing.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. She was up there for sure. I mean, I recently played a small squirrel, and that was not quite as life-changing in the same way as Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
No, I can imagine playing a small squirrel is not precisely. Just on The Midnight Sky, I'm trying to work out whether it's a hopeful film or whether it's a mournful film, or maybe it's both at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, do the two come together often? I think there's definitely hope in that we can see that the human race will continue. It may not continue on Earth, but it's pretty tough, the human race. It'll find a way where it can, and I think that's where you're left at the end of the film, but with a warning shot that, you know, we can't carry on as we have been, well, at least pre-COVID, because we were driving the Earth to a pretty disastrous place.
And you said you were pregnant in the filming of this movie, and there are a couple of moments where the crew on board the spaceship all have a discussion about what your baby should be called. And isn't that the way everyone seems to have an opinion when someone's pregnant? They say, "Oh, I've got a great idea for you," and you're thinking, right, it's actually got nothing to do with you.
Yeah, well, exactly. But also, you quickly realize if you say any names that you're thinking about, then you'll get such a quick review of that name that it's better not to say anything until the baby is born, and then you can name them privately yourself. I definitely learned that along the way. You suggest something and they go, "Oh, that's an awful name. You don't want that."
Yes. Hyacinth, I think, is one of them, and I'm imagining that's not going to capture too many hearts and
No,
minds.
Hyacinth don't think is the way to go. Although if you were a big fan, as I was, of Keeping Up Appearances, then Hyacinth Bouquet is a pretty iconic character. So, you know, it could go either way.
That is a fair point. Felicity, it's very nice to speak to you. What are you in next? Do you know, or are you just taking it easy? What with one thing and another?
I'm getting, you know, interestingly in sort of line with George, and in some ways getting more involved in development and being involved earlier on in projects, and definitely for that very reason of wanting to have more of a say in the ideologies that are put out there, and the effect that cinema and television can have. So I'm developing various ideas at the moment, and then obviously keep looking for fantastic parts to play.
Felicity Jones, always a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you very much indeed for talking to us today.
Thank you very much. All the best. Thanks, Simon.